Morning. Back again. Oh God. Gonna try to finish off the Evans Daily Mail Farrago nonsense crap that he's talking today. But just want to reiterate that not really a light bulb moment, but just more of the corruption. Dr. Bowen in Guernsey wasn't sent. He tells us herself he was sent his reports to check over, and she was sent his Evans reports. Now, what is it that should have happened? Should have been sent all the medical notes and all the crashes without any knowledge at all. So you got a blind checking of what this other gink has done, and then just see what she comes up with. She might not have come up with any unexpected deaths. She might not have come up with any unexplained deaths. But what she's been handed is his reports, which are the 15 cases. His reports are about the 15 cases. That's what the reports are, in which he says intended harm across all of them. That's what ends up on her desk. The reports. And if the medical note's attached, so what? It's his reports. She's checking someone else's completed job, as opposed to starting afresh and deciding as a checking mechanism from the beginning, from having the complete set of notes for all crashes and all deaths across that 18-month period, 19-month period, January 2015 to July 2016, and why she doesn't have the death of why didn't she have the deaths and the crashes and throughout the rest of 2016 either? Why didn't she have those? Well, we know why. Because Lucy Letby's been moved off the ward in July 2016. It's all ridiculous. Obviously, and it gets much more than this. Dr. Bohin should have had no knowledge of Evans's reports. That's not what she should be doing as a checking mechanism to make this a non-corrupt investigation, or a non-corrupt investigation from a medical point of view into what's happened. Her, and then possibly a third person, should have all the medical notes from the beginning and then just see which cases out of the 32 they pick out, if any. Can you imagine what would have happened if Bowen would have done it and then she picks out 6 that Evans thought were expected and explainable, and she said, I'm worried about these ones. That's what should have happened to test the veracity and the rigour of what he's done. Not just a tick box, not just to rubber stamp what he's done with his reports. It's just made me think of when people, I don't know if it's still the case, when people were sectioned under the Mental Health Act. It needed the signature of 2 doctors. They never disagreed. Once you got one, you got the other one. You got it for free. It's like a bog off, buy one, get one free. And that's what it is here. You buy one, you get one free. I said you buy one, you get one free. They bought Evans, they paid for Evans, the police did, and they get Bowen for free. They buy Evans, and they are paying Bowen as well. But they get one, and they get another one. You know what I mean? I won't go back into Hughes. It's just ridiculous. It's obvious. There's no rigour there. There's no proper fairness or checking of what Evans has done. Like it's it's only his anecdote anyway. My reports were sent up to the guy up in the northeast, Dr. Waldplant, who died. So he couldn't. But he thought exactly the same as me. In other words, he just looked at my reports and rubber stamped them. What should have happened? Dr. Waldplant, had he lived, and should have been sent all the notes for all the crashes and all the babies, and see which ones he thought were, without being given all the clues and being directed. When Bohin and the Waldplant before her has been sent Evans's reports. They're being directed into finding the crime that Evans has decided is the case, that there's all these crimes. They've been directed to do that. They're not looking blindly, innocently at these notes to decide if there's anything wrong. But even more than all that, take all that out, wipe all that off the table. It should never have been done like that anyway. You should never have guns for hire paid for by the police in medical matters like this. Okay, the police come in, they've been invited in. What should they do? What should happen in this situation? Well, I've thought of two options which are a million light years better than getting some gun for hire who's in, some Mr. Evidence for hire who's inserted himself for a nice little payday, and then somebody in Guernsey to rubber stamp him. That's not what you should do here. The police come in and they're told by the hospital, the trust, this is the trouble, they're told by the consultants and their witnesses, no, that they need to be pushed to the side. They deal with the trust. The trust says, okay, the trust says to them, we've got these concerns about these deaths, we just want them checked over, what do you suggest we do? Well, it's obvious, they refer it back to the trust and they say, this is what the police should have done. Well, we need to open inquests for all those deaths with the Chester coroners. That's what you do. That's what you do for each of those cases. Not some rando gun for hire, some fraudulent little creep like Evans who just wants a payday, working for the police, looking for a crime. Then Bohin, knowing what her job is, being given his reports which say intended harm all over them, and just saying, oh, well, I won't go against that. I'm being paid by the police here. I'll just say, yeah, I get what he means, yeah. Easy work for her, isn't it? Very easy work for her. Easier for her than it was for him. More fraudulent of her than it was for him, even. All she had to do is rubber stamp it. What a craven and empty process that was for her. Fraudulent. All the deaths across those years, or even the deaths that the trust is concerned about, not the consultants. Okay, the consultants relay the information, whatever, but it doesn't go through them because they need to be treated as witnesses by the police. Possible suspects, those doctors, witnesses, but they don't. No, but as I said very early in a very early video, they direct operations. They direct and they form the parameters of the investigation. And then Evans comes in to further direct and form the parameters in the investigation, because the police just give it all over. And they're happy to do that because they just want criminals. They just want crimes even if there aren't any crimes. They're happy for other people to work them up for them and then take the glory in Operation Hummingbird. They've done nothing. There's no investigation that the police has done. There is no police investigation here. The investigator is Evans. And the investigators prior to that were those consultants. That's the investigation. All the other stuff is just something you spend 10 million quid up for to get somebody innocent in prison. That's all that is. That's all what that is. So yeah, you refer all those deaths to the Chester coroners for an inquest for each of those babies. That's what you do. As the trust. And under the guidance of the police, to say, well, would you need to have an inquest here? That's what happens in individual cases. Often, that's what happened in the Nicola Bully case. Although I've got serious doubts about what that coroner ended up saying, but that's another story. Any death which might be, even possibly be suspicious, refer it to the coroner, Chester coroners. Keep it in that area. And then furthermore, if you want to do something else, if you do want to hire a neonatologist do it from another trust, from another area, not through the police, not with the police paying them. precisely not with the police going to them and not through the National Crime Agency. The police are there because they've been called in, but they direct the trust. For the trust, not the consultants. No, not the consultants with all the suspicions, but the Chester Hospital Trust to get an external neonatologist, which Evans isn't. So you do the coroner side of things, and then if you want to look at all the crashes, get a neonatologist from another trust somewhere else. We've got nothing to do with Chester, nothing to do with going to court, and to look at all the medical notes. Them to look at it, not being paid for by the police, but being paid for by the Chester Hospital Trust. That's what you do. You take out the incentive for some slimeball like Evans to start looking for crimes and then Bohin to rubber stamp it because they're being paid for by the police. And they can see another payday further down the line in the court. And they want a bit of glory. And the police want their glory. That's how tarnished it all is. For the deaths, Chester coroners, as an inquest for each death across those years. All of them, though. All of them. If you're concerned there's some activity on the ward, an inquest for all of those deaths. Oh, but it's a lot easier for the police to hire this nutter who'll find the crimes for them. It's despicable. And then for either the crashes or the crashes and the deaths, the trust, not the police, to hire a neonatologist to pay them from somewhere else in the country, far away as you like, to look at all those medical notes and come back with their report. Don't tell them that there's any crimes there, just come back with your report in terms of what you think the cause of death is here. That, you sully it, you tarnish, you effectively direct it if you've got the police asking them to do it. Because as Evans says himself, I had to block it out of my mind that it could have been a crime. He's not blocking it out of his mind because he knows from the consultants already who's in the frame and he knows which ones he's got to choose. And that's why it's an utterly, in every possible facet, utterly corrupt so-called investigation. Anyway, so I'll go back now to the episode 63 of the Daily Mail, Evans malarkey.
The trial's over, you're going back and reviewing more cases.
Yeah.
Initially, I looked at 32 cases.
Why only 32?
There are 7 I think we need to look at in more detail. I think these were babies who were unwell, who were ill. But whether they were placed in harm's way as well, I think is something we need to look at. One would never reach the threshold of being able to prove that being placed in harm's way led to their collapse or their death, but they could well have been placed in harm's way.
What the hell's he saying then? What does that mean? You can't ally it to a crash or a death, but they've been placed in harm's way. What the hell is that? What on earth is that about? I've got to find another 7 cases that I can't connect with a crash or a death, but I can see there's harm as well. Well, on what basis? It's just a trawling exercise for anything else that they can try to pin on, because they'll keep going forward and forward. You can't go back, can he? You can't go back and say I've misled you all. I'm sorry you spent 10 million quid on this trial and put an innocent person in prison and lied to all the parents. I'm sorry, I've messed up here. Don't blame me. I'm just a independent medical witness. I got it wrong. Sorry. No, he's got to go forward. Like all witch finders, they don't recant. They don't say, "Oh God, I was a bit too over the top with all those accusations. I shouldn't have done it. I was over the top. I went mad. No, they go forward and listen to that. I can't prove there's anything to do with the crash. Well, what are you talking about then? What are you even talking about? And then you had that headline in one of the newspapers saying, I'm spitting over the phone. You had that headline over the newspaper saying like she could be involved in 256 deaths or just cases, deaths. It's madness. It's sickness. But that's what the witch craze was. That's what the witch craze was, whether it's in Massachusetts or the one across Europe, in Britain, in Germany, lots in Germany and other European countries. That's what it was. It grew. It could never stay in the box. You know, people were just accused of things that it could only get bigger and bigger until it broke. And what's going to break this is the appeal. What's going to break his witch-finding trial and the police's witch-finding and the consultant's witch-finding is the appeal if it's run correctly. And then it'll expose it for what it was, as we now know what that witch craze was, sociologically. We know what it was, and psychologically. But this is yet to be seen by the public at large for what it is. Most of the public, through the scum media, you know, they want they want their witch story, and they want that. As many of the people back in the days when all the witch craze was on, they wanted the witch story. They enjoyed that more, which says a lot about most of humanity, unfortunately, and that we haven't changed. As you know, en masse, we haven't changed. They still want it. That's why he's going for more cases.
And of those, how many survived and how many died?
3 of those babies died and 4 of them survived, and I will be liaising with Cheshire Police as soon as possible to bring those cases to their attention.
You can bring them to your attention. You just said a minute ago you can't prove there's any relationship between what you dreamt up as the intended harm. Well, is it intended harm or is it medical negligence from the doctors? You know, let's get real about this. You just said you can't prove the relation to the crash he just said it before, and he said I'm going to liaise with the police about it. Try and make something stick. In other words, try and make anything stick. Which is what they did in the witch craze days. Somebody else, the witchfinder was basically going round the villages saying, well, have you had a pig died? Did your daughter get ill at this point when this person walked down the lane in front of your cottage? Oh, it did it? Oh, yeah, we'll get that one in as well then. When we do the assizes, when we get the trials for the witch, we'll bring you in. You'll come in. Well, we'll give you some soup or whatever and a bit of bread, and you can come in. Help the community to rid them of witches. It's the same dynamic all the way through, and this is the modern day sort of low rent Matthew Hopkins that they've got on a
In addition to that, I looked at another 48 cases. This is after she'd been arrested.
You bastard.
Where there were concerns. This goes back to 2012, but most of these cases date back to 2014. And I found several cases that are highly suspicious, where an endotracheal tube, which is a tube you place in the baby's throat when they need breathing support, had been displaced and come out.
Yeah, come out for all kinds of reasons. They come out. They do come out. So he's gone through the notes. He's just looking for any time the tubes come out, which is coming out in all kinds of reasons because the baby's moving around and it hasn't been put in correctly. So every single, and some of these could have been medical errors in the way the doctors have inserted these tubes, or it just comes out because the baby's moving around, and he's got to ascribe those all to. That's the. What's the word? There's another word for it I'm trying to think of. When someone is I can't think of the word, but it's he's just going for every single thing he can find in the notes. He's got back to 2014, back to 2012. Everything. This is sick. He's a sick individual. He's a sick, evil, twisted individual, as was Matthew Hopkins back in the 1600s. As were the witch finders in Massachusetts, upon which the play The Crucible is is written about that period. Sick, evil people, vainglorious, fame hungry, money hungry, scumbags rise to the surface to do these sorts of things. There they had the cover of religion. Here he's got the cover of pseudoscience. There they had the cover of, oh, it's God and it's the devil I'm driving out. Here he's driving out serial killers for the pristine world of medicine where nothing ever goes wrong, where no doctors ever are negligent, and they're all perfect. To the extent that when you're looking for the criminal, you don't even care about putting their rotas in to see when they were around, but you do for all the nurses, because the nurses, mostly women, are the witches. You see? Same MO. Sorry, but that's what's happening. That is what's happening. It's a replay. It's a type of a replay. Same dynamic. Haven't learned anything. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. Just because it's dressed up in all this technical, clinical language, or this bollocks clinical thing that he talks about. It's the same MO as the witch finding period. I think I keep saying the same thing.
These tubes can come out accidentally.
Yeah, thanks.
But for so many to come out is very, very unusual.
Based on what? That's just off the top of his head. It's unusual. Maybe it didn't say all the reasons why they could come out. Is it because they're not been inserted properly? Is it because the babies have got other conditions which are going to make them perhaps want to be sick and things like that? Because there's lots of sepsis going around. He's not going to analyse that in any scientific way. He's just saying the tubes have come out. Lucy Letby. Do you think for 1 second he's gone back through those notes and looked at every baby where a tube's come out? And do you think if he's found that Lucy Letby isn't on duty on that day, that he's cared about that? And he's going to go to the police about it? He's not going to care about it. In the same way he doesn't care about the deaths that happened between 2015 and 2016 when Lucy wasn't on duty. When the tube's coming out in 2014 and back to 2012, as he's saying there, if Lucy Letby's not on duty, he's not bothered about it. He's only bothered about the ones where she's on duty. This is just... It's criminal. It's criminal what he's doing. He's a criminal. He's a criminal.
So I think one needs to look at those going back at least to June 2014, which is 12 months prior to the first fatality.
You bastard.
I suspect that these tubes were displaced intentionally.
How many babies?
You suspect it? It's off the top of your fucking head. So I mean, how many times did the tubes come out when Lucy wasn't on duty? Don't care about them. Didn't see them. Don't see them. And here's the other thing: he'll do those, and they won't even bother with a Bowen. They won't even bother with a fake checking mechanism of looking at his reports for these. No, it just slipstream it straight to the police, straight to a charge if they could. That's what he'll do. Because once the witch is damned, once they're damned and accused and found guilty, then you can throw everything at them. You can make them guilty of everything, since forever, which was part of the parody I did about him going back to the 1890s. It's exaggeration for effect, because that's the spirit of what he's doing. Him going back to the Elizabethan period to look at air ambulance cases and blame it on Lucy, or blame the Ripper cases on Lucy. That's the spirit of what he's doing right here, right now, and he's telling you it. He's telling you it. And that's what happened in the witch craze days with the nutters that orchestrated that.
Babies, do you think that is then?
I think that 7 of them, probably 8, 9 or 10 of them.
Oh, yeah, that's as loose as it can be, isn't it? 7, it could be 8, could be 9, could be 10. You can see what a nutter he is. Let's cut to the chase. I've gone through it, everything that he's saying in these interviews. He's a complete and utter nutter. For God's sake, come on. And that's what this system has allowed to be the agent, the dark, sinister agent of overturning justice and putting an innocent person through hell and putting them in prison for life and destroying her family, who've lost their daughter, and Lucy's friends are devastated, and lying to all those parents and telling them and making them live with the lie that their children were murdered or attempted murder was what happened against their children. It's such a level of hideousness and evil what he's done, what he's responsible for, and the police in conjunction, and the consultants in conjunction, those three groups. And then the sick, useless, corrupt justice system and CPS just run it through. They're happy to let it happen. They're happy to let that cancer go through. The cancer of this group of people is what they are. And that evil, sick, corrupt system is happy to channel it through and end up with that false conviction.
Were placed in harm's way.
Yeah.
There are possibly another one or two insulin poisonings which we will never be able to prove.
Oh, there's more things you can't prove. That's why my parody, I've took it off now, but that's why my parody of him saying that, well, he might blame some of the Ripper murders or go back to the 1890s, previous incarnations. It's not out of bounds. It makes sense. You can hear him doing it. Oh, it could be 7, 8, 9, 10, and some other ones we can't prove, but probably were. What's that about? Come on. If that doesn't give you a sense of what he did with all the other stuff, nothing else will. Nothing else will. That's why these post-trial interviews are so much more revelatory than you'll find in the court reporting, because he's relaxed here and he's showing his insanity, his evil. He's showing it for the world and he's proud of it, and he's being encouraged by these couple of dopey journalists. So, well, what are there any more, Dowie? Yeah, there was plenty more, yeah. Oh, I can give you that. It's just juicy for you. That's him. That's not me. I can't help it if people misjudge what I'm saying. They can get stuffed. I'm talking about this creature, right? Getting all excited about finding more crimes that weren't crimes, that were possibly medical and doctor negligence, but they were not crimes, and trying to lay them at Lucy Letby's door. Oh, I've got to get to the end of this.
Because the insulin value is not available.
What? It's an insulin poisoning and he doesn't even know what the value was, and he's saying, oh yeah, that could have been her as well. Oh, come on. Come on now, if that isn't... Oh, for fuck's sake. The window's open, I don't want to shout. Come on. He'll even do it when the insulin value is not even valuable, even though that the value of the other one isn't reliable in any way at all, like I was saying in the video before the last one. You're saying, oh, it's an insulin poisoning, but we don't even know how much insulin there was there, and it's probably Lucy's, yeah. Can you hear the rumour that he's just sort of floating in, yeah? It's just sick. It's the sickest thing I've ever heard. This creature needs to have, when Lucy Letby when the convictions are overturned, sue this bastard for everything he's got. Sue this bastard for everything he's got. And the parents of the children who lost children, who were lied to by this vile.
One thing I think we can be reasonably sure.
Reasonably sure, yeah.
Lucy Letby did not turn up to work one day and decide to inject a baby with air into their bloodstream.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't. She never did it. She didn't turn up to work one day and do that, because she never did it. She never did any of it. I mean, he's suggesting it because she did it before. She tried other methods. No, she never did it. No, you're right there. She didn't turn up to work one day and decide to do that. Never did it. Didn't happen. Medical negligence happened. Sepsis. Negligence. Pathogens all over the ward for years. Causing deaths. countless doctor errors, massive understaffing, outside of safe guidelines for years. All that happened. Hundreds of millions of pounds worth of negligence claims. Hundreds of millions. That's what they avoided. That's what they avoided with the fake serial killer story. Hundreds of millions of pounds. And then, like I did in that Follow the Money video, what knock-on effect would that have in other parts of that trust in terms of the sepsis in that hospital as a whole? A hospital that's got the fifth worst performing sepsis adherence to the guidelines of any hospital, and is one of the worst hospitals now in a recent report in the country. What other openings are there for innumerable numbers of claims for negligence for that trust, for all, not just the neonatal ward? And as I said, then all the other trusts start to happen, all the other neonatal wards across the country, domino effect, potentially billions. So it's a serial killer story instead of that. But if you want to go back and listen to that, I mean, Follow the Money video.
So I think the modus operandi evolved over a period of time.
It's in your head, you nuts.
And I think that prior to the
I
air
hate him.
embolus, the air being injected into the circulation, I think that tube displacement was probably something that she did.
Yeah, I probably did that, yeah. Got no knowledge of it, no proof of it, no evidence of it. Just seeing in the notes, or somebody put in the notes for a baby back in 2014 or 12, oh, the tube was displaced. But only looking for when that happens, when Lucy's on duty. When that happens, when she's not on duty, he doesn't care about it. Because then, do you know what happens then? If you ask him, he say, well, those are explainable. The cases where Lucy's not on duty and the tube comes out for whatever reason, it's explainable then, in the same ways that the deaths in 2015 and 2016 were explainable because Lucy wasn't on duty. Can you see the con of this? The utter finesse and con that this is. I mean, it's because it's so serious in all ways. But it's the absurdity of it, the level of the con here, and that's what you can get that through a trial and convict somebody on this. You can do that. What does that say about the justice system? It's shit, isn't it?
You know, this is something you've done for many years. But
Yeah,
I wonder,
fuck people over for
gravity
many
of
years,
this,
yeah.
What has that left you with in terms of your reflections?
Fuck your
It's quite
reflections.
shattering, actually. It's quite devastating.
Yeah, it's devastating for other people what you've done. Shattering for other people. Shattering for those parents that have been lied to. Shattering for those parents that have been lied to. You've lied, you've ensured that they've been lied to, that their children have been murdered or attacked. Shattering and devastating for them. Shattering and devastating for Lucy Letby and her family and friends. Shattering for the real victims, or the real victims of what you've done. And you've got the trust out of paying all that negligence, all that medical negligence money. You've done that. You've done a favour for them as well, haven't you, Evans?
Because basically what happened in this case is that the babies were let down by every organisation who had a duty of care to them.
Yeah, they were let down by the trust, by the NHS. They were let down by that particular trust, and the NHS as a whole. That's who they were let down by. They've got sepsis running rampant. They're doing nothing about it. They got sewage in the bathroom there. They got sewage dripping through in the crawl space above, and sewage coming up through the sinks in the neonatal ward. That's an NHS responsibility. That's who's letting the babies down, and the parents down, and the families down of the babies. And the chronic, massive understaffing and underperforming, and the terrible record of the medical interventions and their failures. So you've got a situation when you can have up to nine attempted intubations by two consultants, two anaesthetists and two registrars for the COCH, and the guy comes from Alderhay and can't understand why none of them can do it and does it first time. And that's the baby with haemophilia. That's what's letting down the babies. That's what's letting down the babies. The NHS. Sorry, but that's what it is. Obviously is. It's that trust. Oh,
The medics were slow to recognise that these babies were put in harm's way.
Well, obviously they weren't slow, were they? No, they weren't slow, because he's lying about... He's even lying about that. He's even lying about that, because Breary, after the deaths of baby A, B, and D, and the crash of baby C, that's when he kicks it off. That's when Breary is the catalyst. That's when he starts it off, and he has the inquiry, and then he's got Lucy in the frame from then on, and Jairam then joins in, and that's the persecution, and that's what happens in the witch crazed periods. You've got the initial finger pointers, and then you got the witch finders come in to ratify it, and then bring in all the other crimes in. But it starts off with someone in the community, and the community for Lucy Letby. The community for Lucy Letby. I don't call her by a surname in that rude way. I say Breary and Evans because they're bastards, you know. The community for Lucy Letby is Breary and Jairam. That's the village she is in when she's in the work. And Dr. B and Gibbs, and they're the ones pointing the fingers, like in the village of where she's working, if you see what I mean, compared to the village where somebody points out a witch. And then they get the priest involved, and then they get the witch finder come from somewhere else. The big noise witch finder comes in, Matthew Hopkins or whoever comes in and does it, or Danforth if it's in the Crucible, Arthur Miller's The Crucible.
I think the coroner should have done a few things differently.
Yeah, I do things differently. I hate him. I hate this man. I hate him. He's deserving of utter contempt. Utter contempt. He should be in prison. He should be in prison. He should be in prison. This creature. Oh, the coroner, yeah. They can't do anything right either. The pathologists, the doctors. It's only him. It's only left him on stage doing everything right, putting everything right, finding crimes from God knows when, putting it all right. Can you see the power hungriness of this vile entity? Can you see it? If you're not disgusted by this, I don't know what to tell you. I can't help you. Can't help. If you're not disgusted by what you're hearing here, if you're not repelled and disgusted by what this person is, and then you've got the scum media treating him like a hero, going to his home, like buttering him up. Oh, you got his lovely Welsh tones, your beautiful home, yeah, beautiful home paid for by stitching someone up and getting them put in prison for crimes not that they didn't do, but didn't happen even. Where was I? I'm getting. He's sick. He's a sick individual. He's all talking very softly and very gently, and that's how evil presents itself often. It's not an ogre often. It's like Hancock. It's like him. It's like Macron. It's like Trudeau. Evil comes in these soft, silky guises and these kind of the patina of professionalism. That's how it comes in the world. More often than the crazed thug. It comes in these forms. Yeah.
The management approach is absolutely shocking.
Yeah, he hates the management. You see, hates the management because of his problems in his own life. Because they probably thought he was a crap paediatrician and they wanted him out. This is about revenge. There's always something personal in it.
It has left a very bad taste, really.
It has.
Because you can imagine now parents not trusting doctors and nurses when their babies are in.
It's you they shouldn't trust. It's the NHS in that they shouldn't be trusting Chester Hospital. No, because they still haven't fixed the problems. There's still negligence claims there. There's still one of the worst hospitals in the country. That's what shouldn't be trusted. And it's you they shouldn't trust. Nobody should trust you about anything. Nobody should trust you to go to the shops for a packet of crisps. Nobody should trust you to do anything, Evans.
Neonatal units, and there have to be.
He kind of gave it away there, the idea, well, you know, not gave it away, but that's the underlying thing. Beneath the fake serial killer story is that nobody will trust neonatal units per se. And that's why I go back to the follow the money thing. If there would have been like a class action, many families gone for negligence, medical negligence claims against the Chester Hospital, it would have led to all the neonatal units being looked at. That it would have been a massive news story. People would have started going, well, my baby died, or what if there was sepsis there? What if it would have, or lawyers would have been gagging for that, for those all over the country, all the trusts over the country, bang, 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 millions, billions potentially. And I'm wondering whether that was the substance of some secret meeting that was had to ensure that that trial had a defined outcome, whatever happened. I'm wondering, I'm just putting it out there. Allegedly, that might have happened, could have happened, a secret meeting to ensure that there was a guilty finding there. Because the alternative is what? It's medical negligence, it's NHS negligence on a massive scale, not just with Chester, but across the whole neonatal system of the country. Once you've got, because they were on the cusp, I just keep reminding, they were on the cusp in Chester of that solicitor bringing medical negligence claims against the hospital, the neonatal ward. It would have started it was the small fire that would have turned into a massive conflagration across the country. Billions of pounds.
That allow a link between responsibility and authority. The same applies to families. The families have no easy access to an independent opinion. Community health councils were abolished over 10 years ago. They were able to ask questions.
You should have access to independent opinions, but not creatures like you, paid for by the police, there to look for crimes as a witch finder. Not you. Go to an inquest to the coroners. Go back to the coroners. He slags off the coroners. He slags off the pathologists, the coroners, all the doctors, everyone. It's just him. It's just him that can do it all. There was never a neonatologist even. There was never one. With a terrible track record in court, with his evidence being called worthless. Can you imagine how much that stung him? Can you imagine how high he is in the saddle now and think, oh yeah, I remember you, Judge, calling my evidence worthless. What do you think now that I'm numero uno in the world one of the most famous independent medical witnesses in the world now? I showed you, didn't I? You called my evidence worthless. Look what people think of me now. They even want me to find more crimes now, don't they? That the rage that must have incurred in him.
Complaints, the problems with what was happening at Chester, which will all hopefully be aired in what's now a public inquiry led by a judge. It's a killer on a ward.
No, it's not. Yeah, it is a killer. Yeah, it is a killer on a ward. Yeah, it's called sepsis. It's called disease, and it's also called medical negligence. Those are the killers on the ward. And the inquiry, well, you know, what's the inquiry to do? The appeal's got to come in there before the inquiry starts. I mean, that's what's got to happen. And then the inquiry is about something else altogether. It's about how this can happen, how somebody innocent can be blamed for what are systematic NHS problems. That's what the inquiry's got to be about. And then you start the medical negligence claims against Chester Hospital. And then potentially so many others. And that's what they're using, the serial killer story, the fake story, as the dam to stop those negligence claims happening. And that's what they've done. They've ruined a life and destroyed a life to do that. I've got no doubt about it.
Not something even you would come across very often.
Even you, Evans.
I still find it difficult to imagine any member of staff intentionally harming a patient. Yeah?
He doesn't find it difficult to imagine at all. It's the easiest thing in the world for him to imagine. He's doing it with absolute ease. He's not even imagining, he's creating it. He's creating it. He doesn't even have to imagine it, he creates it out of whole cloth. He makes it up. He's making it up. It's not hard for him to imagine.
No, it is so completely outside one's mindset.
No, it's not. It's totally in his mindset. That's where he is in his head. With all the killers are in his head. Lucy Letby is the very clever criminal, is a figment in his thick head, in his greedy, arrogant, unbelievably arrogant mind.
Don't think I've ever known such an event, to be frank with you.
Like he has to think about it. I don't think I've ever known one. No, I have to rack my brains there. No, of course he doesn't. Of course he hasn't, because this is his star moment. Like he has to think. Oh, I don't think I've. No, let me think about that. Have I ever come across this before? Well, he knows that he hasn't. Oh, he's blamed people. He's called people. He said people have had Munchausen by proxy before. He's never even met them. He's done that. He's done the lower level stuff, but he's never done this. Oh, let me think a minute. Has this ever happened before in my experience? He knows he's a fake. He's a fake in every aspect of his personality. Hence wanting to go into politics. Hence being in politics at a low level and not being able to get any further. Even they rejected him. Even the absolutely hideously fake political world didn't want anything to do with him in terms of Plaid Cymru.
We've taken up so much of your time.
Yeah.
We've been in your beautiful home for hours.
Beautiful home that needs to be soothed. You need your arse suing off you, Evans. And you need to go to prison. That's what needs to happen in any just world. In any just world. And those consultants. And some of those police officers. That's what needs to happen. In your beautiful home, that's going to be sued off you. In any just world. I'm talking about natural justice here, natural law. Not talking about this sick British justice system. And this sick British state. Corrupt state.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah,
We
thank
really
you so
appreciate
much,
it.
Dr. Evans. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Oh, collect all the mugs together, yeah. Thanks. Oh, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor, for that. Yeah, thank you, you're great. Yeah, I can see. We'll leave you to it because you're busy. You're busy now because you're looking for more crimes that Lucy Letby did. You're looking for all the instances where a tube came out of a baby's mouth in that hospital but you'll only look at the ones where Lucy was on duty. You don't care about the ones where that very same thing happened and she wasn't on duty. And that's the same MO as what he did, reducing those 32 cases down to the 15, but there he had even more help because he had those 15 already chosen by those 4 consultants. I won't do him anymore. I won't listen to his voice anymore. If anyone's watched a series, some of these videos, and they don't realise already what this thing is, what this entity is, what an utter charlatan is too weak. He's a criminal, effectively a criminal, because of the fruits of what he's done. He's destroyed lives. That's what makes him a criminal. If you don't get it now, if you don't get it by now, you never get it. There's no point in doing the Raj Prasad one. I could spend like hours and hours going through all that. It's just more of the same. More of the same. What I want is proof that he was at that meeting on the 12th of May 2017 when Gibbs and Jayaram were presenting at the Welsh Paediatric Society. What I want is somebody to send me some proof of the date of the email that he sent to, the date and time of the email that he sent to the National Crime Agency in May 2017, where he says he's read about it. I want to know what the date of that is, because if the date's too early, then he's lying in that email. And we can prove prior knowledge. I know he's got prior knowledge, I know it. We all know it because it leaks out of what he's saying constantly. We've got to prove it though. He's utterly corrupt. Operation Hummingbird is utterly, utterly, utterly corrupt. And so that's what leads, inevitably, to a miscarriage of justice, which devastates Lucy's life and her family and her friends, and the families of those babies who were lost because of medical negligence and NHS negligence as a whole, because they've let pathogens run rampant there because of a sewage system which is completely kaput and just being tinkered with to, while they're letting sewage come up through the sinks every other week. That's it. I'm done with Evans. There's no point in going over it anymore. He's a nightmare figure. He's a nightmare figure with that soft tones and his mugs there and his beautiful home. Gave him a nice cup of tea. Oh, thanks for coming. Oh, we'll leave you alone now, Dr. Evans, to continue your wise deliberations there. And no doubt you'll get back to the Cheshire Police about some more crimes that Lucy did that didn't happen. Yeah, there could have been negligence there from doctors in all likelihood, or just happenstance, or more cases of sepsis. But God, when he just said there, she's probably guilty of more insulin poisonings, but we don't have the insulin reports. What the fuck is that about? If anyone watching this, if you've managed to listen to me going through this, and I'm if anyone has got any doubt about what this person is now, well, I can't. There's nothing more anyone can humanly do to reveal it. He's revealed it. All we've done here is just let him speak. Let him speak. He wouldn't be speaking like this on the stand. It's all more controlled. It's a theatre there, you see. The prosecution can control him running his mouth like this. But here is where you reveal and you see the measure of what a scumbag he is. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you. And fuck you, Evans.